My boyfriend invited me to his promotion party and handed me the bill after. So I promoted myself to single at his event. My boyfriend Leo called me excited about his promotion to senior manager and said he wanted me to be his special guest at the celebration dinner. He made it sound romantic, like he was including me in his big moment. He picked the most expensive steakhouse downtown and told me to wear my nicest dress because all his coworkers and his boss would be there. I was touched that he wanted me by his side for such an important night. When we arrived, there were already 20 people there, and Leo had reserved a private dining room. He'd ordered bottles of expensive wine for the table before we even arrived. He stood up and gave a speech about his journey to success, while everyone toasted him with the champagne he kept ordering. He told everyone to get whatever they wanted because tonight was a celebration. His coworkers ordered the most expensive items like lobster and Wagyu beef. His boss got 3 cocktails that cost $25 each. Leo kept saying this was the best night of his life, and ordering more bottles of wine that cost $300 each. I thought his company was paying since it was a work celebration, or maybe he'd saved up for this special night. He held my hand during dinner and kept introducing me as his supportive girlfriend who'd been there through everything. He actually made a toast to me saying behind every successful man was a woman taking care of things. Everyone clapped while I smiled, not knowing what was coming. When the bill came, the server walked straight to Leo, but he pointed at me. He actually pointed at me and said loud enough for everyone to hear that his girlfriend was treating everyone tonight as her gift for his promotion. The entire table turned to look at me and started thanking me for my generosity. The bill was $8,000. I stared at Leo and he leaned in, whispering that I made more than him anyway, and this was my chance to show his coworkers how supportive I was. He said if I really loved him, I'd be happy to invest in his career. He actually used the word invest like I was getting something out of paying for his party. His boss stood up and made another toast to me for supporting Leo's success so generously. Everyone was watching and waiting. Leo had his hand on my shoulder, squeezing it in a way that looked affectionate, but was really him pressuring me to pull out my credit card. I paid because I didn't want to humiliate myself in front of all those people. Leo kissed me and said loudly that this was why he loved me. He told his coworkers I was the kind of woman who understood that relationships meant supporting each other's dreams. He actually said he was lucky to have someone who didn't mind spending money on his happiness. His female coworker whispered to her friend that she wished her boyfriend would let her pay for things like that. Leo heard and said not every man was secure enough to have a successful girlfriend. The whole ride home, Leo talked about how great the night went and how impressed his boss was. He didn't mention the bill once. When I brought it up, he said I shouldn't be petty about money when it came to his career. He said his promotion would benefit both of us eventually, so really I was investing in our future. He said if I wanted to be with a successful man, I needed to act like a woman who deserved one. The next day, he texted asking if I could also pay for the new suits he needed for his senior manager position. He said it was a continuation of my investment. That's when I started my plan. I told Leo I was so inspired by his success that I wanted to throw him another party for his friends and family to celebrate. He loved this idea and immediately started planning an even bigger event. He picked an expensive rooftop venue and invited 50 people. He told everyone I was organizing everything because I was so proud of him. He bragged to his parents about how supportive I was and how I insisted on celebrating him properly. The night of the party, Leo showed up in one of his new suits, expecting another night of free food and drinks on my dime. The venue was beautiful and all his friends and family were there. When it came time for dinner, I stood up to make a speech. I told everyone that Leo had taught me so much about success and investment. I said he'd shown me that truly successful people pay their own way, and tonight, Leo would be demonstrating his new senior manager salary by treating everyone to dinner. I started clapping and everyone joined in, congratulating Leo on his generosity. Leo's face went white, but he couldn't say anything without looking cheap in front of his parents and friends. The bill was $12,000 because I'd secretly told the venue to offer premium options and encourage people to order top-shelf everything. Leo stands frozen at the head of the table while everyone applauds and thanks him for his generosity. His expensive new suit suddenly feels like a costume. I watch his jaw clench as he realizes he's completely trapped by the same social pressure he used on me 3 weeks ago. The server approaches with the wine list, asking if he'd like to start with champagne for the table. Leo forces a smile and orders the champagne because 50 pairs of eyes are watching him, including his parents who are beaming with pride at their successful son. I sit back in my chair feeling a rush of satisfaction as the server pours drinks that cost $30 per glass. His hand shakes slightly as he reaches for his water, and I know he's doing math in his head. Everyone raises their glasses in another toast to Leo's success and generosity. Leopold calls across the table asking Leo if he remembers his first paycheck and how proud they were. Leo nods and says something about how far he's come, but his voice sounds tight. I take a sip of my champagne and watch him squirm. Dinner proceeds with Leo's friends and family ordering exactly what I knew they would after the venue coordinator assured them everything was premium quality. His father Leopold orders the Wagyu beef and a scotch that costs $60. He claps Leo on the shoulder and says he's proud to have raised such a generous man. Leo's smile looks painted on as he watches plate after expensive plate arrive at the table. His cousin orders lobster and asks if Leo remembers when they used to split cheap pizza in college. Leo laughs, but it sounds hollow. I order the salmon and act like everything is perfectly normal. The server keeps bringing bottles of wine that Leo never actually agreed to, but can't refuse without looking cheap. I make polite conversation with Judith, who sits beside me, complimenting the venue choice and saying how wonderful it is that Leo wanted to celebrate with everyone he loves. She squeezes my hand and tells me I'm exactly the kind of supportive partner her son needs, completely missing the irony. She goes on about how Leo always talked about finding someone who understood him. I smile and nod while keeping my expression warm and genuine. Across the table, Leo catches my eye and I see the first flash of real panic. His face has gone pale under the warm lighting. I look away and ask Judith about her recent trip to Florida, keeping the conversation light and pleasant. Halfway through dinner, Leo excuses himself to the bathroom and I know he's checking his bank account. Several people make jokes about the groom getting nervous, not realizing this isn't a wedding. He returns looking pale and sits down heavily, barely touching his food while everyone else enjoys their meals. Derek orders a third cocktail and toasts Leo's leadership skills. I watch my boyfriend's throat work as he swallows. Leopold starts telling a story about teaching Leo to ride a bike and everyone listens with warm smiles. Leo picks at his steak without eating. His friend asks if he's feeling okay, and Leo says he's just overwhelmed by everyone's support. The lie sits heavy between us. After dinner, the server presents the bill in a leather folder directly to Leo while the table is still full. He opens it and I see all color drain from his face as he stares at the total of $12,347. His hand trembles as he reaches for his wallet, knowing he has no choice with his parents sitting right there. He pulls out his credit card slowly like it weighs 100 pounds. The server takes it with a smile and thanks him for hosting such a lovely celebration. Leo's jaw clenches so hard I can see the muscle jump. Leopold is still talking, completely unaware of the panic attack his son is having. Leo puts down his credit card, and I watch him die a little inside as the server takes it away. Leopold is telling a story about Leo's first job and everyone is laughing, completely unaware that Leo just spent probably 3 months of his savings increase from the promotion. The server returns and Leo signs with a hand that's visibly shaking. He tries to hide it by signing quickly, but I notice. Everyone else is too busy enjoying dessert and coffee to pay attention. Leopold finishes his story and everyone applauds. Judith dabs at her eyes, saying she gets emotional thinking about how her baby is all grown up. As people start to leave, Leo's friends shake his hand and thank him for an amazing night, saying he really knows how to celebrate success. His parents hug him, and Judith whispers something about being so proud, while Leopold slips him a $100 bill like he's still a kid. I stand beside Leo accepting thanks and compliments, watching him maintain his smile through sheer force of will. His face looks like a mask that might crack any second. People keep telling me how lucky I am to have such a generous boyfriend. I thank them and say I'm very lucky indeed. Leo's grip on my hand gets tighter with each person who leaves. Finally, everyone is gone except Leo and me standing on the rooftop as staff clean up around us. He turns to me and his face transforms from forced pleasantness to pure rage. His voice comes out low and shaking as he demands to know what I just did. I meet his eyes calmly and tell him I gave him exactly what he gave me, a chance to invest in our relationship. His mouth opens and closes like he can't believe what he's hearing. Leo's voice rises as he says, "This is completely different because I made more money and could afford it, while he just got promoted and has expenses." He's actually yelling now about how I trapped him and made him look like an idiot. I let him rant for a full minute before asking if he seriously doesn't hear himself right now. He stops mid-sentence, his mouth opening and closing as the parallel finally registers. I can see the exact moment it clicks in his head. His face goes through about 5 different expressions in 3 seconds. I step back when Leo reaches for my arm, my voice coming out steadier than I expected as I tell him I'm done being his ATM, and I'm done being ambushed with bills for his ego parties. He freezes mid-reach and I watch his face shift from anger to shock as I say, "This relationship is over." His mouth opens but nothing comes out for a few seconds, and then his expression cycles through disbelief and rage before settling into something calculated. His shoulders drop and his voice turns soft, almost vulnerable, as he says he didn't realize how the first dinner made me feel, and he should have discussed it with me first. He reaches for my hand again, more gently this time, telling me we can work this out because he loves me, and just got caught up in celebrating his success. I pull my hand away and take another step back, telling him he had 3 weeks to realize what he did wrong. His eyes widen like this hasn't occurred to him, and I see him trying to formulate another argument. I remind him that he didn't just fail to apologize after sticking me with an $8,000 bill. He texted me the very next day asking for money to buy suits. My voice gets harder as I repeat his exact words about it being a continuation of my investment, and he actually flinches hearing his own manipulation played back to him. I tell him I don't date men who see me as an investment opportunity instead of a partner, and his face flushes red. Leo's tone shifts completely back to anger as he says, "I'm overreacting and making a scene over money when we're supposed to be a team." I actually laugh at that, the sound bitter and sharp in the empty rooftop space. I ask him where that team spirit was when he pointed at me in front of 20 people and told them I was paying for his party, and he has no answer that doesn't make him sound exactly as selfish as he is. His jaw works like he's trying to find words but keeps coming up empty because there's no good defense for what he did. I turn toward the elevator and Leo follows immediately, his voice taking on a desperate edge as he says, "We've been together for 2 years and I'm throwing it all away over one mistake." I press the call button and tell him it wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern of using me that I finally got tired of. The elevator dings and the doors slide open and I step inside alone. Leo moves like he's going to follow, but I hold up my hand and he stops, standing in the doorway looking lost. I watch his face as the doors close between us, his expression crumbling from anger into something that might be actual regret, but comes too late to matter. I get home to my apartment and my hands are still shaking with adrenaline as I pull out my phone and call Nadine. She answers on the second ring and I tell her everything that just happened, the words tumbling out in a rush. She actually screams with satisfaction so loud I have to pull the phone away from my ear, and then she's saying she's coming over right now with wine because I'm her hero for actually going through with it. I sink onto my couch feeling the weight of the entire evening crash over me now that I'm alone. My apartment feels too quiet after the noise of the party and the confrontation, and I realize my legs are trembling. Nadine arrives 20 minutes later carrying 2 bottles of wine in one hand and a bag of Thai food in the other, and she wraps me in a hug before I can even speak. We settle on my couch and I tell her every single detail from the moment I stood up to make my speech to Leo's face when he opened the bill to our final confrontation on the rooftop. Nadine keeps interrupting to say she wishes she'd been there to see it, that Leo absolutely deserved what he got and more. She pours us both large glasses of wine and we eat pad thai straight from the containers while I replay the whole night. As we eat and drink, the satisfaction I felt on the rooftop starts mixing with other feelings I wasn't expecting, like guilt and sadness about the relationship actually being over. Nadine sees my face change and immediately reminds me that Leo used me and embarrassed me publicly without a second thought. I know she's right, but it's still complicated because I did love him before I realized what he was doing, and 2 years doesn't just disappear even when the ending is justified. My phone starts buzzing on the coffee table and I see Leo's name flash across the screen with a text. Then another, then another. Nadine grabs it before I can and starts reading them out loud in a mocking voice that makes me laugh despite everything. The first one is an apology saying he acted badly and wants to talk. The second one says I humiliated him in front of his entire family. And the third one is another apology that sounds more desperate. Nadine asks if I want her to block him, and I tell her not yet, that I need to see if he's capable of taking actual responsibility instead of just cycling through emotions. She nods and hands me back my phone, saying she'll stay over tonight if I want company. I take her up on it because the apartment feels too empty for what just happened. That night I barely sleep, lying in my bed replaying the look on Leo's face when he opened the bill and saw $12,000 staring back at him. Part of me wonders if I went too far, if I'm just as bad as he is for setting him up like that. But then I remember sitting at that first dinner feeling trapped and humiliated while everyone thanked me for generosity I never agreed to give. I remember Leo squeezing my shoulder in a way that looked affectionate, but was really him pressuring me to pull out my credit card, and I remember him calling me petty the next day when I tried to talk about it. By the time morning light starts filtering through my curtains, I feel more certain that I did what I needed to do. Leo taught me that sometimes the only way to make someone understand how they made you feel is to put them in the exact same position, and maybe now he'll think twice before using someone else as his personal bank account. I wake up to my phone buzzing on the nightstand and reach for it with eyes still half closed. 17 texts from Leo fill my screen along with 3 voicemail notifications that I swipe away without listening. Nadine's already awake in my living room and I hear the coffee maker gurgling as I scroll through Leo's messages. The first ones are angry, calling me manipulative and saying I embarrassed him on purpose. Then they shift to bargaining, asking if we can just talk this through like adults. The last few are pure self-pity about how he can't believe I'd throw away 2 years over one mistake. I screenshot a few of the worst ones and walk out to the kitchen where Nadine hands me a mug. She reads over my shoulder and shakes her head, pointing out that not a single message actually apologizes for what he did at the first dinner. He's sorry I'm upset and sorry things went badly at the party, but nowhere does he say he's sorry for sticking me with an $8,000 bill without warning. Nadine says this is classic manipulation, making himself the victim while never taking real responsibility. I set my phone down and drank my coffee, feeling more certain with each message I read that breaking up was the right choice. I finally pick up my phone around noon and type out a message to Leo saying we can talk in person in a few days when we've both calmed down, but that my decision about breaking up isn't changing. His response comes through before I can even set my phone back down. He says he'll do anything to fix this and asks if we can meet today, right now, wherever I want. I show Nadine and she rolls her eyes, saying he just wants to pressure me in person the same way he did at both dinners. I turn off my phone completely and tell her I need to not engage for at least 48 hours. She agrees and suggests we get out of my apartment since Leo knows where I live and might show up. We pack a bag and head to her place across town, stopping for takeout on the way. Nadine lives in a small studio, but it feels safe and Leo doesn't know the address. I settle onto her couch and feel my shoulders relax for the first time since the party. We spend the rest of the day at Nadine's place watching movies and deliberately not talking about Leo. She puts on comedies that don't require much thinking, and we eat popcorn and candy like we're teenagers again. Around dinner time, she starts telling me about her own relationship drama with a guy she dated last year who kept borrowing money and never paying it back. We laugh about how men can be completely blind to their own behavior, expecting women to just accept being used. She says her ex also did the thing where he'd get mad at her for being upset instead of apologizing for what he did wrong. By evening, I feel stronger and more like myself, remembering who I was before I started walking on eggshells around Leo's ego. Nadine orders pizza and we stay up late talking about everything except my ex-boyfriend. When I finally go to sleep on her couch, I don't feel sad or guilty anymore, just relieved that I got out. Monday morning, I go back to work and throw myself into projects that have been sitting on my desk for weeks. The distraction of deadlines and meetings helps push thoughts of Leo to the background. My coworker stops by my desk around lunch and asks how Leo's promotion party went. I give a vague positive answer about it being nice to celebrate with his family, not ready to explain the whole situation to someone who barely knows him. She nods and moves on to talking about her own weekend. I realize as the day goes on that Leo and I didn't actually have many mutual friends. We had my friends and his friends, but very few people who knew us both well. This will make the breakup cleaner since I won't have to navigate shared social circles or explain myself to people who might take his side. I finish my workday feeling productive and grateful that my job gives me something to focus on, besides the mess of my personal life. Tuesday afternoon, my phone rings with an unknown number and I almost don't answer. Something makes me pick up and a woman's voice asks if this is me. When I confirm, she introduces herself as Judith and says she's Leo's mother. My stomach drops because I'm not ready for this conversation, but she quickly adds that she'd like to meet me for coffee to talk about what happened at the party. Her tone isn't angry or accusatory, just careful and a little sad. I'm surprised but agree to meet her the next day, curious what she wants to say. We pick a coffee shop near my office for Wednesday at 3, and she thanks me for being willing to talk. After we hang up, I sit at my desk wondering if Leo sent her to guilt trip me or if she's coming on her own. Nadine texts asking how work is going, and I tell her about the call. She responds with a string of warning emojis but says maybe his mom will surprise me. Wednesday afternoon, I get to the coffee shop 10 minutes early and order a latte while I wait. Judith arrives right on time wearing a nice blouse and looking uncomfortable. She orders tea and we sit at a corner table away from other customers. She starts by saying she's not here to defend Leo's behavior, which immediately surprises me. Her hands wrap around her teacup and she says that after the party, she and Leopold had a long talk with Leo about what really happened at his first celebration dinner. I sit up straighter because this isn't what I expected at all. She says Leo finally admitted the truth about sticking me with the bill at the steakhouse without any warning. Her face looks pained as she talks, and I realize she's genuinely upset about what her son did. Judith tells me that Leo confessed he'd asked me for more money the next day for new suits. Her voice gets quieter as she says she didn't raise him to treat people that way, especially someone he claimed to love. I feel some of my anger start to soften because she actually gets it. She's not making excuses or trying to convince me to give him another chance. She's just acknowledging that what he did was wrong. I watch her stir her tea without drinking it and see real distress on her face. She says Leopold was furious when he found out the full story, that they'd thought I was just being generous at both dinners because I wanted to celebrate Leo's success. Finding out he'd manipulated me into paying made them both question how they'd raised him. I take a breath and explain to Judith how humiliated I felt being put on the spot in front of all those people at the steakhouse. I tell her about Leo squeezing my shoulder in that way that looked loving, but was really him pressuring me to pull out my credit card. She nods, and her eyes look sad as I describe how he called me petty the next day when I tried to talk about the $8,000 bill. I mention how he tried to gaslight me by calling it an investment in our future, like I was supposed to be grateful for the opportunity to fund his celebration. Judith sets down her tea and says Leopold was furious when he heard that part. She says they didn't raise Leo to be entitled or manipulative about money, that they taught him to work hard and pay his own way. She apologizes for any part they played in making him think that behavior was acceptable. I feel tears prick my eyes because having his own mother validate my feelings means more than I expected. Judith asks quietly if there's any chance Leo and I could work things out. She says it like she already knows the answer but feels like she has to ask anyway. I tell her gently that the problem wasn't just the money. The real issue was Leo's complete inability to see me as an equal partner, instead of a resource he could use. I explain that even after I confronted him on the rooftop, his texts were all about how I embarrassed him, or how I was overreacting. And none of them showed understanding of why what he did was wrong. Judith sighs and nods, saying she understands. She says she hopes Leo learns something from losing me, that maybe this will be the wake-up call he needs to grow up. I appreciate that she's not pushing or making me feel guilty for my decision. We finish our drinks and stand to leave. Judith pulls me into a hug that feels genuinely warm, and I hug her back. As we separate, she slips an envelope into my hand and tells me not to open it until I get home. I'm confused, but thank her for meeting me. Walking back to my office, I hold the envelope and feel lighter somehow. Having Leo's own mother validate my feelings and take my side confirms I wasn't overreacting or being petty like Leo claimed. She saw the situation clearly and called it what it was: manipulation and entitlement. I slide the envelope into my purse and head back to work with a small smile on my face. I get home and drop my purse on the counter, remembering the envelope Judith gave me. I sit at my kitchen table and carefully open it, pulling out a folded piece of paper. A check falls onto the table and I pick it up, staring at the amount written in careful handwriting: $8,000. My hands start shaking as I read the note tucked inside. Judith's handwriting is neat and precise, saying this is what Leo should have paid at the first dinner. I read the words again because they don't seem real. She writes that she's sorry her son took advantage of me, and she hopes this helps make it right. Tears form in my eyes because the gesture is so unexpected and kind. I sit there holding the check and note, feeling something shift in my chest. This isn't about the money, really. It's about being seen and validated by someone who didn't have to do this. I take a photo of the check with my phone and immediately call Nadine. She answers on the second ring and I can barely get the words out, my voice shaking as I tell her about the check. There's silence on the other end for a moment and then Nadine speaks quietly. She says Leo's mom is a class act and it's too bad Leo didn't inherit more of her character. I agree and wipe my eyes, saying I'm going to deposit the check because Judith clearly wants me to have it. It does feel like justice somehow, like the universe correcting what Leo tried to do. Nadine asks if I'm okay, and I tell her I'm more than okay. I'm relieved. We talk for another 20 minutes about everything, and she makes me promise to take myself out for a nice dinner with some of the money. After we hang up, I sit staring at the check, then carefully put it in my wallet. I pull out my phone and text Judith, thanking her for the check and for meeting with me. I tell her it means more than she knows, and I'm grateful for her kindness. I hit send and set my phone down, not expecting a quick response, but my phone buzzes within minutes. Judith writes back saying I deserved better than how Leo treated me, and she hopes I find someone who appreciates me properly. I read her text 3 times and save it in a special folder. It feels like closure from Leo's family even if I don't have it from Leo yet. I make myself dinner and actually enjoy it, feeling lighter than I have in weeks. That evening, my phone buzzes with a text from Leo. I see his name and my stomach tightens, but I open it anyway. His message says his mom told him she met with me and gave me money. His tone is accusatory, like I somehow manipulated her into it. He writes that I had no right to go crying to his parents and making him look bad. I stare at the text feeling anger flash through me, but I don't respond. I'm not going to defend myself against his twisted logic anymore. I screenshot the text and send it to Nadine without any comment. She responds immediately saying this is classic Leo, making himself the victim when his own mother saw through his behavior. I turn off my phone notifications and go to bed early. The next few days pass more easily as I settle into my new routine without Leo in it. I wake up on Wednesday and realize I slept through the night without checking my phone once. Work feels more enjoyable because I'm not worried about what Leo might need or what mood he'll be in later. I go out for drinks with coworkers I'd been neglecting and remember what it's like to just relax and laugh. And Thursday, I meet up with 2 friends from college and we get dinner at a place I'd always wanted to try. They ask about Leo and I tell them we broke up, keeping it simple. They exchange glances and one of them admits they never really liked him anyway. I laugh because I'm starting to see how much mental energy I was spending managing his ego and trying to avoid his manipulation. By Friday, I feel like myself again, the version of me that existed before Leo started draining my confidence. Saturday morning, I'm still in my pajamas making coffee when someone knocks on my apartment door. I look through the peephole and see Leo standing there holding flowers. My heart starts racing, but not in a good way. He looks tired, like he hasn't slept well, and his hair isn't styled the way he usually keeps it. He knocks again and calls my name softly. I take a breath and open the door, but keep it only halfway open, one hand on the frame. He tries to smile and holds out the flowers, asking if we can talk. I look at the flowers and then at him, not taking them. He shifts his weight and says please, that he really needs to explain some things. I reluctantly step back and let him in, but I don't close the door all the way. He notices but doesn't comment, walking into my living room like he still belongs here. Leo sits on my couch without being invited and sets the flowers on my coffee table. He launches into what sounds like a rehearsed speech about how he's been thinking about everything. He says he realizes he took me for granted and didn't appreciate what we had. His voice is earnest, and he keeps making eye contact like he practiced this. He tells me the promotion went to his head, and he got caught up in impressing his coworkers instead of focusing on us. I stand near the door and listen without interrupting, my arms crossed. He continues saying he knows he messed up and he wants another chance to do things right. I wait to hear if he actually understands what he did wrong or if this is just another manipulation. He talks about how stressed he was about the promotion, and how he let that affect his judgment. I keep my face neutral, even though I'm already seeing where this is going. He continues saying he knows the bill thing was messed up and he should have discussed it with me first. He admits he put me in an impossible position at the steakhouse. This sounds better, and I feel myself wanting to believe he gets it. But then he adds that he was just excited about his success and wanted to celebrate with me, that he didn't think it through. I stop him there and say that's still not taking real responsibility. He looks confused and asks what I mean. I tell him there's a difference between admitting you made a mistake and understanding why what you did was fundamentally wrong. His face tightens, but he nods like he's trying to understand. I tell Leo that the problem wasn't just surprising me with a bill. The real issue was treating me like an ATM and then gaslighting me when I objected afterward. He starts to argue, saying he wasn't gaslighting me, but I cut him off. I say if he can't see the difference between making a mistake and having a fundamental view of me as a resource to be used, then we have nothing more to discuss. His face flashes with anger before he controls it. I watch him take a breath and adjust his expression back to apologetic. He stands up and takes a step toward me, but I don't move from my position near the door. Leo switches tactics again and his voice gets softer. He says he'll pay me back for both dinners and we can start fresh. That money doesn't have to be an issue between us. I shake my head and tell him this isn't about the money anymore. It's about respect and partnership and seeing me as an equal instead of someone whose job is to support his dreams financially. He looks genuinely confused, like he can't understand why paying me back wouldn't fix everything. That confusion on his face proves my point better than anything I could say. I walk to the door and open it wider, telling him I think he should leave. He stands there for a moment, looking between me and the flowers he brought, then finally picks them up and walks out. I close the door behind him and lock it, leaning against it for a minute before going back to my coffee. I stand up and walk to the door, pulling it open wider so Leo gets the message. I tell him he needs to leave now and that I'm not changing my mind about the breakup. He stands from the couch but doesn't move toward the door, instead crossing his arms and saying I'm being stubborn and throwing away 2 years over pride. I laugh without any humor and tell him he's the one who threw it away when he decided his career celebration was more important than our relationship. His face gets red and he starts to say something else, but I hold up my hand and tell him we're done talking. He finally walks to the door, stopping in the doorway to turn back and tell me I'll regret this when I'm alone and realize how good we had it. The words make anger flash hot through my chest, but also relief that I'm free of his manipulation. I close the door behind him and lock it, leaning against the wood for a moment while my heart pounds. My phone buzzes in my pocket and it's Nadine asking how it went. I text back that Leo still doesn't get it and probably never will. She responds with a string of angry emojis and says she's proud of me for standing firm. Over the next 2 weeks, I focus on myself in ways I hadn't while dating Leo. I take a weekend trip with Nadine to the coast, booking a small hotel right on the beach where we can hear the waves at night. We spend Saturday walking along the shore, collecting shells and talking about everything except Leo. I start a new workout routine at a gym near my apartment, going to early morning classes where the instructor pushes us hard enough that I can't think about anything else. I sign up for a cooking class I'd been interested in for months, learning to make pasta from scratch on Tuesday evenings. Each day I feel more like myself, and less like the supporting character in Leo's story. My apartment feels bigger somehow without his stuff scattered around, and without him showing up unannounced expecting me to drop everything. I rearrange my furniture and buy new throw pillows in colors he always said he didn't like. Small things that remind me this space is mine again. I run into Angelina from Leo's office at a coffee shop on a Thursday morning, She's waiting for her order when she sees me, and her face goes uncomfortable. She walks over and apologizes for her comment at the first dinner about wishing her boyfriend would let her pay for things. I tell her it's fine, and that I hope she realizes she shouldn't have to wish for that. She should expect equal partnership. She nods slowly like she's thinking about it. We end up sitting at a table together and talking for almost an hour about workplace dynamics and relationships. She tells me Leo has been miserable at work since the breakup, showing up late and snapping at people during meetings. I feel a small twinge of satisfaction, but mostly I just feel free. She admits she's been thinking about that night and feeling guilty, saying she didn't know Leo had ambushed me with the bill. I tell her the whole story and watch her face change from uncomfortable to angry on my behalf. She says she's going to have a serious talk with her own boyfriend about expectations and money. Before we leave, she gives me her number and says we should get coffee again sometime, that she'd like to be friends outside of Leo's orbit. A month after the revenge party, I'm having dinner with friends at a restaurant downtown. One of them asks if I'm ready to start dating again, and I realize I'm not sure, but I'm also not opposed to it, which feels like progress. Nadine jokes that I should make any potential dates sign a contract agreeing to pay for their own celebrations. Everyone at the table laughs, and someone else suggests I should add a clause about not being used as an ATM. The conversation moves on to other topics, but I keep thinking about the question. Maybe I am ready, or maybe I just need more time to be completely on my own. Either way feels okay. I get a final text from Leo on a Sunday afternoon saying he's moving to a different city for a job opportunity and wanted to say goodbye. He says he hopes I'm happy and that he's sorry things ended the way they did. I stare at the message for a few minutes, trying to decide how to respond. I finally type back wishing him well and meaning it, because I'm genuinely over the anger and just grateful I got out. He doesn't respond, and I don't expect him to. That night, I delete his number from my phone and block him on social media. Nadine comes over and we order pizza, watching bad reality TV and laughing at people making worse decisions than we ever did. Nadine and I go out the following weekend to celebrate my newfound freedom and independence. We get dressed up and go to a nice bar with craft cocktails and live music. I realize how much lighter I feel without Leo's constant need for validation and support weighing on me. She toasts to me standing up for myself, and I toast to friends who have your back. The night feels like a real celebration, not a performance for anyone else. A guy tries to buy me a drink and I accept, chatting with him for a while before politely excusing myself. Nadine grins at me and says I'm glowing. I feel it too, this sense of possibility that I haven't felt in years. I treat myself to something I'd wanted for a while, but felt guilty buying when Leo was always hinting he needed things. I walk into the store and buy a beautiful leather jacket that costs more than I usually spend on clothes. The purchase feels empowering rather than indulgent, like I'm reclaiming my right to spend my own money how I choose. I send Nadine a photo of me wearing it, and she responds with celebration emojis and tells me I look amazing. I wear it to work the next day and get compliments from coworkers. One of them asks if it's new, and I say yes. I bought it for myself as a promotion gift. She laughs and says, that's the best kind of gift. 3 months after the breakup, I'm genuinely happy with my life and haven't thought about Leo in days. I got a promotion at work that came with a significant raise, my boss calling me into her office to tell me they're moving me to senior analyst. And this time I celebrate by taking my parents out to dinner at a nice Italian place near their house. I pay happily, enjoying their pride in my success without anyone trying to use me or make it about themselves. My dad orders the expensive wine and my mom gets the lobster ravioli. They tell me I seem more confident and settled than I have in years. My mom squeezes my hand across the table and says she's glad I'm taking care of myself. I realize she never really liked Leo but was too polite to say anything. We talk about my new responsibilities at work, and my dad gives me advice about managing people. The whole evening feels warm and genuine, exactly what a celebration should be. I'm at a business conference downtown when I spot Leopold across the lobby near the registration desk. He sees me at the same time and his face lights up with recognition before he weaves through the crowd toward me. He shakes my hand warmly and asks if we can talk for a minute, gesturing toward a quiet corner by the windows. We move away from the noise and he thanks me for taking the time, saying he's been hoping to run into me. Leopold tells me he wanted to apologize for Leo's behavior and thank me for teaching his son a lesson he clearly needed to learn. His voice is sincere and a little embarrassed as he says he and Judith had no idea Leo was treating me like a personal bank account. He admits they raised Leo with certain expectations about success, and maybe didn't emphasize respect and partnership enough. Leopold says Leo has been doing a lot of thinking and growing up since the breakup, though he's honest that he's not sure if the changes will stick. I appreciate his honesty and tell him I hope Leo figures things out, that I don't wish him any harm. Leopold nods and says he understands why I ended things, that any woman with self-respect would have done the same. We shake hands again and he heads back to his conference session, while I feel a strange sense of closure from the conversation. A few weeks later, my coworker invites me to a happy hour with some people from her department, and I almost say no out of habit. I realize I've been turning down social invitations for months, because Leo always made me feel guilty about spending time without him. I say yes and show up at the bar feeling lighter than I have in ages. That's where I meet Scott, who works in finance and has an easy smile that doesn't feel like it's hiding anything. We end up talking for 2 hours about everything from bad office coffee to travel plans to our favorite pizza toppings. When the bill comes, Scott doesn't even hesitate before splitting it down the middle without making it a big deal or a statement. On our first real date, he takes me to a museum exhibit I mentioned wanting to see, and then we get dinner at a place he picked because they have both the pasta I like and the steak he wants. He asks what I want to do next weekend and actually listens to my suggestions instead of just telling me his plans. The third time we go out, I reach for the check and he lets me pay without any weird comments about emasculation or keeping score. It feels so refreshingly normal and equal that I almost don't know how to process it. Scott texts me random funny things during the day and asks how my meetings went and never once hints that I should be supporting his lifestyle. When I mention a work achievement, he congratulates me without finding a way to make it about himself. It's early and I'm not trying to rush into anything serious, but it feels healthy in a way my relationship with Leo never did. Nadine and I meet for dinner at our favorite Thai place on a Tuesday night, and she's barely sat down before commenting on how different I seem. She says I'm laughing more, and the tension I used to carry in my shoulders is gone. I realize she's right as I think back to how stressed I was during those final months with Leo, always walking on eggshells and managing his ego. Nadine tells me she's been thinking a lot about boundaries in her own life since watching me stand up to Leo. She says seeing me refuse to accept less than I deserved gave her courage to have some hard conversations with people who were taking advantage of her kindness. We spend 2 hours talking about how much we've both grown this year and how good it feels to prioritize ourselves. She asks about Scott, and I tell her it's still new, but he treats me like an actual partner instead of a resource. Nadine raises her glass and toasts to us both, finally figuring out what we're worth. Walking to my car later, I feel grateful for friends who support you through the hard stuff and celebrate when you come out stronger. My phone buzzes with a message from Judith asking how I'm doing and saying she'd love to catch up if I have time. We meet at the same coffee shop where we talked months ago, and she looks genuinely happy to see me. Judith tells me Leo started seeing a therapist a few weeks after our breakup and is working on his issues with entitlement and relationships. She says the therapist has helped him understand how he was using people and treating relationships like transactions. I'm glad to hear Leo is getting help, but I'm also clear that ship has sailed for us. Judith nods and says she understands completely, that she's not asking me to reconsider. She just wanted me to know Leo is trying to be better, and that my decision to leave was the wake-up call he needed. We talk about other things for a while, and she asks about my job and my life. Before we leave, she hugs me and says she's glad we can stay in touch even though Leo and I aren't together. I drive back to work feeling at peace with how everything turned out. 6 months have passed since the revenge party, and I'm sitting in my apartment on a Saturday morning drinking coffee and thinking about how much has changed. I don't regret what I did because it was the wake-up call I needed to stop accepting less than I deserved. The revenge was satisfying in the moment, but the real victory was choosing myself and walking away from someone who saw me as a wallet instead of a person. My life looks completely different now in ways both big and small. I take up space without apologizing. I spend my money how I want without guilt, and I date someone who actually respects me. The whole situation with Leo taught me exactly what I won't tolerate in a relationship, and that lesson was worth every uncomfortable moment. I look at my calendar and see plans with friends, a weekend trip coming up, and a date with Scott next Friday. My life feels full in a way it never did when I was trying to make Leo happy. Scott and I are having drinks with a group of his friends at a rooftop bar when someone asks about my most dramatic breakup story. I laugh and tell them about the revenge party, watching their faces change from curious to shocked to impressed as I describe ambushing Leo with a $12,000 bill in front of his entire family. Everyone starts talking at once, saying I handled it perfectly, and that Leo got exactly what he deserved. Scott squeezes my hand under the table and says he's glad I have high standards, because it means he has to stay on his game. His friend jokes that Scott better never try to stick me with a bill, and everyone laughs. I feel comfortable and happy in a way I forgot was possible in a relationship. Later, when we're alone, Scott tells me he's never met anyone who advocates for themselves the way I do, and it's one of the things he likes most about me. I kiss him and think about how different this feels from Leo's constant need for validation and support. Nadine and I take another trip together, this time to the mountains for a long weekend of hiking and talking. We spend hours on the trails discussing how much our lives have changed this year. She tells me that watching me end things with Leo gave her the courage to end her own unhealthy relationship with a guy who was always borrowing money and making excuses. Nadine says she kept thinking about how I refused to be used anymore and decided she deserved the same respect. We talk about the patterns we fell into and how easy it is to mistake someone's need for your support as love. I feel proud that something good came from my mess beyond just my own growth. That night, we sit by the fire at our cabin, and Nadine thanks me for being brave enough to blow up my relationship publicly because it showed her what standing up for yourself actually looks like. I tell her she would have figured it out eventually, but she shakes her head and says, "Sometimes you need to see someone else do it first." I'm scrolling through social media one evening when I see a post announcing that Leo got engaged to someone new. I stare at the photo of him and a woman I don't recognize, waiting for some feeling to hit me, but there's nothing except hope that he treats her better than he treated me. My phone buzzes with a text from Nadine asking if I saw the post and if I'm okay. I text back that I'm completely fine and I mean it. That chapter of my life is totally closed and I don't have any lingering feelings about Leo one way or another. Nadine responds saying she's proud of how far I've come and that Leo's loss was Scott's gain. I smile and put my phone away, returning to the book I was reading before the notification interrupted me. A year has passed since the revenge party, and Scott and I are having dinner at his place talking about moving in together. We've been dating for 8 months and it feels like the natural next step. What I love most is how we handle the practical stuff, like adults who respect each other. Scott brings up splitting rent based on our incomes, so it's fair to both of us, and we talk through how we'll handle shared expenses versus personal spending. He never makes me feel like I'm supposed to bankroll his life or support his dreams at my own expense. We discuss grocery shopping and utility bills and cleaning schedules without any weird power dynamics or resentment. I finally understand what an equal partnership actually feels like. Later that night, as we're watching TV on his couch, I think about how I almost stayed with Leo, because I didn't know relationships could be this balanced and healthy. I make a reservation at the same rooftop venue where the revenge party happened because they really do have amazing food, and I'm not letting Leo ruin good restaurants for me. Scott and I sit at a table with a view of the city, and I tell him this is where I threw the party that ended my last relationship. He laughs and says he's grateful Leo was an idiot because otherwise I wouldn't be available. The server brings our drinks and Scott toasts to second chances at good venues. I realize I'm grateful too because I learned exactly what I won't tolerate and what I deserve in a partner. We order dinner and split an expensive bottle of wine, and Scott pays for the meal without making it weird or keeping score. Walking out of the venue later with his arm around me, I feel completely at peace with how everything turned out. A few months later, Nadine calls me sounding different and asks if I can come over right away. I arrive at her place and she's sitting on her couch with this huge smile, holding out her left hand where a diamond ring catches the light. She got engaged last night and I scream and hug her, genuinely happy for her after everything she's been through this year. She asks me to be her maid of honor and says I'm the strongest person she knows, that she wants me by her side on her big day. I start crying happy tears right there on her couch and tell her how much her support meant during my whole mess with Leo, how I couldn't have gotten through it without her. She squeezes my hand and says, "That's what best friends do. They show up when it matters most." We spend the afternoon looking at wedding ideas and talking about her fiancé, and I feel grateful that something so good came out of this crazy year. 2 weeks after that, I get called into my boss's office and my stomach drops thinking something's wrong, but she offers me another promotion with a significant raise. I accept immediately, and this time I plan my own celebration exactly how I want it. I invite my parents, Nadine, and Scott to a nice restaurant downtown, and I pay for everything happily without anyone pressuring me or making me feel used. When the drinks arrive, I stand up and make a toast to surrounding yourself with people who see your worth, people who celebrate your success without trying to take advantage of it. Everyone raises their glasses and cheers, and Scott kisses me while my parents beam with pride. I feel genuinely content with where my life is now, like everything finally makes sense. Sitting there with the people who actually care about me, I think about how different this celebration feels from Leo's promotion dinner a year ago. Looking back on everything now, I understand that the revenge party wasn't really about punishing Leo or getting even for the money. It was about reclaiming my power and self-respect, about showing myself that I deserved better treatment than what he gave me. I'm in a better job now with people who value my work. I'm in a healthier relationship with someone who sees me as an equal partner, and I have boundaries I actually enforce instead of letting people walk all over me. Leo taught me exactly what I don't want in a relationship, and what I won't tolerate from anyone. And honestly, that lesson was worth every single penny of those $12,000.